for joining us today for our webinar, Functionality in Dynamics GP compared to Dynamics 365 Business Central. Today's session, we will be covering purchase orders. My name is Katie and I will be the facilitator today. If you have any questions during the presentation, please type them into the question area in the control panel on the right-hand side of your screen, and we'll answer questions at the end. Please note that this session will be recorded and posted on our blog, as well as shared with you early next week. Now I would like to introduce our presenter, Don McNulty, who is a solutions architect here at Encore. Don, I will pass it over to you.
Thanks very much, Katie. So welcome. I'm going to be talking today about Business Central and purchase orders. So let me just, why is this not moving? There it goes. Okay. So the first thing we're going to talk about is how do we issue a purchase order. We have two types of purchase orders that we need to discuss today, inventory and non-inventory, because there's a significant difference in the way that GP handles it versus Business Central in the non-inventory method. The receiving a full and partial PO, so I'll go through the receiving process of how you receive a PO in GP and how you do it in Business Central, and then some invoice matching, and then we'll talk, we're going to talk a bit about purchase price variance as we go through this. Purchase price variance will be a topic that comes up as we move through each of these areas as to where it goes and how it is calculated and recorded inside the two different systems, because there is a significant difference between the way that GP handles it and the way that Business Central handles it. All right, so that's kind of what we're after today. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on vendors. I've got vendors set up ready to go, so that's what we'll be using. But the vendor cards, we covered that off in the accounts payable information that I did a couple of weeks ago or a few months ago. The other piece that we have that I will mention as we go through this and we're issuing POs is the ability for business. One of the features of Business Central is the ability to put discounts and price lists in by vendor, which is something that you cannot do inside GP. So there's some good things and some bad things on both sides. So let's take a look at that. So we won't go to questions right now. Let me just go like this. All right. So what we have is I have GP on the left and I have Business Central on the right, and I've got purchase orders on the screen. So this is the purchasing module inside GP. And when we enter a purchase order in GP, we click on here, we enter a PO. And we can enter a PO like this. I'm just going to hit save. This is what I was just doing this morning. We come down, we give it a purchase order number and then a date, and then we put in a vendor ID. And I'm just going to type in Ace Travel, and I'm going to take a look up here, and I can look up my different ones inside here. I can take Advanced or whatever it is, so I can grab Advanced or Ace Travel. I'm going to use Ace Travel. He's my favorite because he's on the top of the list. Into my items, once I'm into my scrolling window in the bottom, which is the detail part of this, I'm going to order some 1-ear and 2-ear headsets. So here we are here. We're going to order 10 of these, and they're going to charge me $45 for each of those. And then I have to give it a site. So this is where I give it, where is this going to be delivered? Is this going to be delivered to the north site? I have north, south, east, and west set up in both of these, as well as warehouse. So I'm going to put this to the north site just so that we've got a place to put it. And there we are there. So we got $450 and it adds $450 at the bottom. I'm then going to add the 2-ear. And I'm going to put it in at $55, going to change the price on it. And I'm going to again give it 10 units. So it gives me a $1,000 invoice that I'm going to be expecting. I'm going to be sending this off to the purchase order. So at this point here, my purchase order has been fulfilled and I'm now ready to go and I can print this. Now, things that I can add inside here, which I can also add inside Business Central, things like landed cost and things like that if required. I'm going to keep it fairly straightforward at this point, to keep it just like this. So inside here, we have the ability to put a prepayment on if you wish. So you can put in payments. So you can say, oh, I've got to put a deposit down on this particular purchase order. So this purchase order is now sitting here ready to go. So I can do either print it or I can email it. I can't email it from my current demo system because I don't have email set up. But inside, when I hit the print button, do I want to save it or delete it? I'm going to save it. And then I'm going to print the document. I'm just going to hit the purchase order here. We're going to hit print and we're going to go screen. We'll just put it to the screen and it will pop up. There it goes there. And it gives me my standard GP print job. And it basically looks like a purchase order. It's got the 2 lines and it's got the information at the bottom. It's got a place at the bottom if you want to sign it and things like that. If you're sending it by email, you must send it out by Microsoft Word. which I should do. So let me just grab this one again. So I hit 90, and then when I hit print, I just have to hit the template instead. So I go print, and I believe the template should work. I did test this. There we are. And now I get something that looks like this. This is the HTML version of it, but it's fine. I can put logos and things on it. And you'll see here, this has got a floating footer. The footer moves up underneath the last line, and I've got no extra descriptions and things like that. So this is kind of what I'm looking at inside here. This is the to here, the overnight, and things like that. So this gives me my purchase order that I can send to my vendor. So that's fine. So let me, whoops, cancel. So I'm going to close that. And then I'm going to go back to my Business Central inside here, and I'm going to get out of here for a second. Come on. That's weird. Working 2 minutes ago. All right. Must have been when I tried to close it, I disconnected. So Business Central being a full web browser, it does just sit in the web browser, and it sits here. So underneath my purchasing, again, underneath my purchasing, I have the ability to hit the purchase orders. When I hit the purchase orders, instead of getting a screen that I see on this side, I get a list of all my outstanding POs. And I'm just going to maximize this so we can see it. We can see how much the amount is and things like that. So I can now work with these POs as I move forward. I'm just going to look at the BC numbers inside here. So there it is there, 1 through 12. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a new one. So when I add a new one, it comes up with a screen of purchase order and says, what do you want? What's the vendor name? So this vendor name, I can just type in what I know about it. So if I just type in travel, right, it's going to come up with a list of all the travel. So you see the travel is in different locations in the name. I can pick the Ace Travel, which is the same company. I could have just typed in Ace as well and it would have found it, but I wanted to show the contains feature of Business Central. So as I move down here, I got a shipment number and things like that. So I'm just issuing a PO. I go down to the item now. I'm into the scrolling windows type area, which is a grid. And instead of having a whole bunch of fields that you kind of wrap around and have an additional field. So when I look at a PO inside here, and let me bring that PO back up again. I have an additional screen inside here, which has got a lot of information on it. So this information that you see here is all contained on this line. So we've got a whole bunch of different pieces in here, receipt dates and things like that. And it works like a grid, so you can copy and paste directly in from Excel. So inside here, again, I'm going to type in ACC. I'm going to find my ACCS. I'm going to hit my 1 year. And I've got it defaulting to North, but I could put in whatever site I wanted. So I'm going to put in North. And again, I'm going to order 10. And when I go across to here, it's got a default price of $40 in this system, but I'm going to put in the same $45 that I put in on the other one. Now, if that's all I needed to do, I can click down to the next item. When I hit tab across, it's going to go to there. I can go access, and then I can go dual ear, like so. I'm going to put across. Now, you'll notice that I've now got a second item reference number. This item reference number is the vendor item number, which you can get inside GP, but you have to use a toggle field at the top of the screen. So when I'm inside here, when I go view, I can display the item number. My item number and my vendor number are the same inside my GP, but I have made them different here so that they show up here. And that allows you to do that. If you've got GST or anything like that, you've got North. And then again, I'm going to bring up the 10. And then I'm going to make it $55 each. Whoops. $55 each. I've got no tax area, so there'll be no taxes. And again, I've got that same $1,000 invoice. So also on this thing, though, we do have information about the invoice. So we know we can put in the payment terms, the department codes, the division codes, and things like that. These are your dimensions. This is done instead of the segmentation, so you can change your segmentation easily on this. So if I go into the department code here and I change this from a 2 to a 3, so from north to south, yep, And when I move back up, you'll see that the lines on each of these lines has changed. This is something that GP does not do. It does not roll it through the document. So that's fine. There's the net 30, things like that. I'm going to turn this back to O2 to keep my data in sync. And there we are. Yeah, I do want to update the lines. There is some shipping down here. This is where I can put in different addresses and things like that. And this is how I pick my location. I can show less if I want, which only shows me just kind of the location and what it is, so I don't have to worry about actually looking at the address. You can always show less and show more. Then underneath the prepayment, I have the ability to put in a prepayment just like I did inside GP. So there's very similar functionality on the way that the purchase order is done. So once the purchase order has been done, right, I can either print it from here, or I can, if I'm in it, let me go back to it. Up at the top here, I can print and send. So I can send by email, or I can print. I'm going to print it because, again, I do not have email set up here. So there it is there. What order number, buy from. I'm going to hit the print button. And it will then generate a PDF for us. And then we can either send the PDF to a printer, or we can send a PDF to the, this worked a second ago. So I don't know why it's so slow, but it is. So there it is there, comes up with the purchase order. We can change this purchase order to look at like whatever you want. So you can change whatever you need. So you can change the address, you can change the names, you can put your logos on top. And again, we got the same kind of look inside here, the 2-ear headset. And you'll notice here, instead of saying ACCS, this actually has the vendor number because we're sending it to the vendor. We want the vendor ID, vendor number to be on there. GP does exactly the same thing. So if we've got vendor numbers attached under the vendor card on the item, it will automatically put those onto the purchase order. It can add tax if you want it to. I kept it tax-free to keep it simple. And then we can hit the print button or whatever we need to do. You'll notice that it's going to print to that. So I'm going to hit cancel, like so. Bring me back to here. I've still got the PO on the screen. So there it is there. And then I can get out of the PO. And now I can see that I've now got my $1,000 PO here. These two POs are identical. There was one that I did this morning before I got online to make sure that it was working. And then one that I just did. So I can add as many different purchase orders as I want. At this point, I can release this. So I could release this and reopen it. In GP, the way you release an item is by printing it. That is the released status. So when I go to my purchase order here and I look at 90, you'll see at the bottom the status is released. It was open until I hit the print button. As soon as I hit the print button, it automatically goes to released. There is no toggle for it inside GP. It goes to released only when you print. So a lot of my clients have to hit the print button, even if they're just printing it to a trash can, in order to make it release, so that the MRPs and things like that will take account of it. Same in Business Central. If you do not release the PO, when you run MRP or you run anything that says, it's not a valid PO until it's been released. It does not include the value as supply until you've released it. The idea being is that if it's released, that means that you've given it to the vendor, so that you know that it is coming. You've confirmed it. That's the idea behind it. All right. So now for non-inventory POs, so these are inventory POs. So these are items that are in the inventory. Now in GP, oops, let me go back to here and go back to my purchasing item. So if I want to add non-inventory items, just non-inventory like this, right? I can do so, and I can put in 10 at 10 at 10. So I now got an $1,100, and then I can give it a description. This is a non-inventory PO. So this would be things like paper towels or stationery supplies and things like that. You could issue a purchase order like this. When you're in this, then you must go into the item details. So you got to click here and go to the item, and then you can change your purchase account. So this is currently going to 365.20 travel. And what I might say is, okay, I might want to put it to stationery or something. And I would have to change the GL code here in order for it to work that way. And that's how you do a non-inventory item inside. And you'll see here the item type is non-inventory, adds it to the PO, and then I can hit save. not a problem. And now I've got an $1,100 PO. So to do exactly the same thing in Business Central, we go back to the Business Central one that I was working on, 6013. And in the item inside here, we have a number of different choices. We don't just have item, non-inventory, and inventory. We have the ability to pick an item, a resource, a fixed asset, charge item, an allocation account, but most importantly, we have a GL code. This would be a non-inventory item. Now, instead of inside here, I type in what I want. I want travel expense. So I'm going to hit travel. There's travel and admin. And then I provide it the department code, and then I can give it a reference, and I can say CEO travel, or in my case, what I said on the other one was non-inventory item, like so. It's going to go to the north. It's going to be 10, and we're going to go across here. And oops, I'm too many. We're going to put in $10. And again, I got my $1,100. And then inside here, I'm going to make it taxable. There we are. So there it is there. And now I can now move to the next line and do it again and again and again if required. So I can put in whatever I need. I can put in my GL entries, and then I can work and I can see the actual GL entries without having to drill any farther. Much nicer from that point of view for the non-inventory stuff. Now, let's talk a bit about PPV now that we're going to go into the receiving side. So when I get out of here, this is open because I've reopened it, so I can release it if I wish. So I can hit the release, that's fine. And then that item is now released, that's fine. And I can post it as well. So when I move forward from here, the next step is I have to receive the products into inventory. And what does it do with the journal entry? So inside Business, inside GP, when I close this screen here, do I want to save changes? Yes, I do. And then when I go into my receiving transaction entry, I have to select whether or not this is a shipment or a shipment invoice. And that shipment, the shipment means that I'm receiving the product without an invoice. So I've got to match it as a secondary step. The shipment invoice means I have the invoice in my hand, and I'm going to do both at the same time. So that's fine. So I'm going to do a shipment invoice on this so that we do both at the same time. Now, when I do both at the same time, any change that I make to the value will be recorded directly against the item in both systems. So this works exactly the same in both systems. So what I can do here is I can come down through here. I can go into here. I know my East Travel, and then I hit the auto receive, and then I pick up number 90, and then I can pick up 10, 10, and the 10. So at this point here, if I hit the receive button, it's going to populate this. There it is there. There's my $1,100 as expected. We hit the distributions, and as you can see, I've got $1,000 going to inventory, which is $1,300, and I've got the $100 going to the account that I had selected against that line item. And then, of course, my $1,100 going to the payables itself. So this is perfect. Now, if I go back to here and I change this because they said, oh, well, it wasn't $45. It was actually $50. So if I change this value inside here, inside GP, when I go to my distributions, you'll see that this is now changed to there. There's no purchase price variance recorded on a shipment invoice because it's receiving it and matching it at the same value. This is also true inside Business Central. So if I make a change to the value, it will also do the same thing. There's no record of that change of the $50 being recorded. That is the same. So then if I go OK, and then I could hit the post button here and it would post it through. I'm not going to. What I'm going to do is I'm going to delete it so that I can use that same purchase order again to partially receive. Now, when I go across to here, when I go to here and I bring up my 6013, it's a little different. So inside here, I can give it a vendor invoice number, which is the same as what I would do inside GP. I had to give it a vendor number at the top. Inside here, quantity invoiced, everything is fine. All I really need to do is just go something like this. And then at this point, I can go this and I can preview the posting. And it's going to automatically receive 10 and invoice 10. As you can see here on the screen, it says invoice receive 10. And now what it does is it says, this is what I'm going to get. So there's my general ledger entry 1. I got 2 item ledgers, 1 detail ledger. When I look at my general ledger entry, I get a few more transactions. I got the $450 going in and out, and then I got the $1,000 going to my accounts payable down here, $1,100. This is the same entry that you saw from GP. These two are the direct costs, and this is how it handles things in order to handle receiving of documents. So it's receiving the document. So this is the receipt of the document. It's putting it into inventory, and it's putting a credit to received, not invoiced, and then it's taking it here. It does the same thing, and then it takes it out of the 1311 here to offset these two. So these two are the two that go to inventory, and these three, this line, and this line, make up the final. That wipes out the 1311, which allows it to go to 0, which is what you would expect. And this is important because what happens in the future is that this is how it handles all changes in value. Because what it does is it reverses what it originally did, and then it puts it in again. So the PPV is never recorded as a purchase price variance as such. So there's no PPV account recorded because of the way that Business Central handles it. It updates the inventory item on hand and then updates the 6520, which is the $100 as expected, and that was going through. So that is going to be the same. That item looks very much the same. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back to GP and I'm going to partially receive something. So now what's going to happen is I'm going to come into here. I'm going to do a shipment. I'm going to go to Ace Travel again, same vendor, and I'm going to go auto receive. I'm going to pick up that one there. You'll see I've still got it. But this time I'm going to go 6 and 4. And I use 6 and 4, so I'm not using 5 and 5, and you can see what's left. It will be a different number. And then I'm going to receive 7 of these, like so. And I'm going to hit the receive button. When I hit this receive button, everything is now as expected. There's the 6 at 45, there's 4 at 55, and if I scroll down, you'll find 7 at 10 that give me 560. When I look at the distributions, it looks perfect. There it is there. We go okay. Now, because we haven't got the invoice, we don't know what the vendor's going to charge us, so we have to post this. Now, you can give it a vendor document number if you wish. This is packing slip 12345. There we are. And I'm just going to hit the post button. And now we post it. So that will then record that into the journal entry. This is where it's different between GP and Business Central. GP records the expense for the 7 at $10 has been recorded as a debit to an expense and a credit to an accrued accounts payable. Okay. When I do the same entry here, and I come across to here and I go quantity to receive is, I said 6 and 4, automatically changes the quantity to invoice, and I hit 7. Okay. When I go into here, if I was to preview posting, the preview shows the $70. But when I post this entry, and I'm just going to receive it, I'm not going to receive an invoice, but I'm going to receive only. I'm going to go OK. And then it will print. It shows this. This non-inventory item is here, but there's no value hitting the general ledger at this point. The general ledger does not get hit until the invoice is recorded for non-inventory POs. It's just the way that it works. So there it is there. So now I've got 647 quantity to invoice. I can now come into here and I can go 6, 4, 7. Now I've got my invoice inside here, and then when I hit so now this is matching it up. So I've now matched up my invoice to this. when I move across to here, I can change my value here from $45. If you remember, that was 45. This is now going to be 50. And now what I can do is I can go post and print. Where is it? Charge to handle. So the idea is that it will then give you the 45.50, and then we can go from there. So that would then give you the information that's required. Let me just fix this. And then when I post and print this, it'll then print it across, and then it will match it up. So that's how you do the matching. Now inside GP, when we do that same matching, we do it in a separate screen. We have a different screen for that inside GP. We have it under enter invoice match. Whoops, sorry. Enter invoice match. And we have to put a vendor document number. It becomes mandatory. So 51245. And this is also Ace Travel. Get the Ace Travel, hit the auto invoice, hit number 90. We'll click on these three. We go invoice, it brings them in as an invoice. And now if I change this to 50 here, it will tell me that it's different. Is that correct? I can say yes. Now when I go to my distributions down here, you'll see that my accrued 560 is being reversed, but I'm putting an extra $30 into inventory, and it's going to change my inventory value accordingly. So it does the same thing there. It's just a matter of how it handles it. So that's the difference between the two there. Do you want to save or delete the document? I want to let me just go delete so that I don't have to re-enter it. And then inside here, if I hit my post print with the full amount, I can invoice this and go OK. And then again, I got my purchase invoice, and there's the three pieces being invoiced. But this has got the dollar values, and now you've got a dollar value attached to your inventory item. Your inventory items are accrued correctly at the time of receipt, but non-inventory items are not accrued at the time of receipt. They are only entered when you hit the when you actually put it against the invoice. At this point, because if I posted and printed it, so now that's been done, I can now go back to here. You'll see that I'm now got 4 left, 6 left, and 3 left. So I could then process this with a new invoice number and provide that from there. If I tried to post the same invoice number, it would tell me that that invoice number already exists. Okay. All right. What time we got? 9:29. Okay. Let's see, invoice matching, purchase price variance. So the big difference between the two is underneath your PPV. Now, on the purchase side, inside Business Central, one thing I did want to mention, which is very important, is that inside GP, there's no way inside an item to price it for the vendor. So when I'm in GP and I look at my vendor, at my item card, and I'll just take my item card for a 2 here, like so. Underneath here, under my purchasing control, I've only got what to purchase it in, what's my default unit of measure and things like that, and whether I revalue it or not. If I go into other things inside here, like vendors, all I can see inside here is the last original cost, and that will be automatically updated every time I receive a product. So this is fine, this is good, but when I'm in Business Central and I go into my item, and I just grab my ACCS 2 here, I'm going to just bring up my 2 here. When I bring up my 2 here, I wanted to mention that inside here we have prices and discounts. So when I go to prices and discounts, I have sale prices and sale discounts and sale. So this is all things that we have inside GP. That's what affects sales order processing. It's what affects your sale to the customer. This is something that we do not, these three, the purchase price discounts, the purchase prices, and the purchase discounts, I do not have inside GP. But inside here, I'm allowed to put in my discounts, and I can manage these. So inside here, I can type in my Ace Travel here. underneath my to here, the unit of measure code is each. And then I can say with a minimum quantity of 15, you get a line discount of 10%. So if I order more than 15, I'll get a 10% discount. What's the starting date? If I leave it blank, it's valid immediately, but I have a start and an end date so that that can be put on promo if necessary. So I can click off of this. And now this particular item here has been saved. So now I can close this. And when I close this, if I go back to my purchase order, I said 15. So now when I go back to my purchase order, click a new one. Vendor name is Ace Travel. That was the to here that I selected. And if I order 10, 55, and my extension is 550. If I click on here and go 15, oops, sorry. $15, the 55 is here, but now it's not 55 times 15, it's now 55 times 15 times with a 10% discount. So it's 550. So that gives us the discount, automatically applies the discount on the extension line so that we now have a discount being applied directly at the time of purchase order. And we can do that on line items and both on the line items and on other things as well. So you've got some very good things inside your item. So if I go back to my item, just move around, go into the item, we click on the to here. I have different things inside here under prices and discounts. And there's a purchase prices, so I can set the purchase price. So right now it was defaulting to 55. I could type in Ace Travel. Each minimum quantity is 15. And instead of being 55, let's make it 45, like so. And then now it's going to be $45 plus a 10% discount. So you can do that kind of thing inside Business Central. It's something that you do not have inside GP without a third-party add-on. Okay? All right. So that basically covers everything off that I wanted to cover. So I've got about 10 minutes left to answer any questions and show anything else that anybody would like to see. So if Katie, do we have any questions?
All right, thanks, Don. Again, if anyone does have any questions, please enter them into the question area in the control panel. And as Don said, questions or anything else you would like to show Don to show about purchase orders, enter those into the chat. I haven't seen any come through quite yet, Don.
Well, that's good. Then I solved everyone's problem, and they'll all love the new interface. So let's assume that. So now the only thing I will mention is that on this side here we got different views inside here. So these ones here will give us a list of the received not invoiced. These items have been received but have not yet been invoiced. So we get that kind of information directly on these screens. These screens can easily be sent to Excel as well as edited in Excel. Partially invoices as well. These are filters, so we got completely received, partially invoiced. So these ones here have been partially. If I open up this 16,005, when I look at this, I got two received, two invoiced. There it is there, but it's got some information that needs to be added. Need to put this into here, so it's automatically saying this is what's left on this particular purchase order. So we've got different pending confirmation, and you can put these different things inside here. These filters on this side are your choice. If you click on all, you see everything. There's all. This is just the BC numbers, which is the 1000s. And then these other ones have been set up by Microsoft for this. So there's outstanding purchase orders. These are the outstanding ones there. And are they released? These are the released ones, not the open ones. So these are released POs. Upcoming orders would be the ones that are open, like so, or these are released. And then down here, you're saying expected receipt date is greater than today. So these are the ones that we expect to receive after today and the release, and the ones, all the other ones would be before that. The dates and stuff like that, you can filter by totals and things like that if you need to. Other things that are built into purchase order processing that you can do in GP as well is that on any purchase order, you can always send a purchase order. Let me just open up a PO here. You can always send a purchase order for approval. You can set up workflow approval for this. You can also always use Power Automate in order to create complete workflows for your purchase orders and receipts and invoices. So you can push these things through workflow that so that people can approve that this has been done correctly. But I just wanted to kind of show that that's what we've got from there. Your items are now in inventory and ready to be sold. After the receipt, the items are in inventory, can be sold, and then that's correct. And it correctly does that. On the differentials, if I've already sold the item, the piece is then pushed through, and then is expensed to wherever that particular order, the reduction is done. It does not, like GP, the purchase price variance or the change in the value of the inventory good does not follow it upstream. So in other words, if I bring an item in on Monday, I build a sub-assembly on Tuesday, I build a finished good on Wednesday, and I receive the invoice on Friday. When I change the value on the invoice on Friday, it will not change the finished good. It will not roll through. That is something that is available in tier 1 product only, I'm afraid, but that is something that some people have asked for, but that is an expensive proposition. So hopefully that answers all the questions. And let me just...
I do have some questions that are coming in, Don, if that's okay. So first one I have here is, can the prices be adjusted if the price increased or if the discount is discontinued on subsequent purchases?
Yes, so there's a date on the subsequent purchases if you've done that, and you can change those prices anytime you want, and you can change them on the fly as well. It's what it defaults to. So if it defaults to $7.50, then it's to $55 to $45 and it's no longer available, then you could type in 40. You could type in your 55 again and then move forward from there, then go back and change it later. The percentage discount, same kind of idea. If you've got a date on it, you can put a date range. This is good from January 1st to June 30th, and then after that we lose that. Usually they're good for about a year. A lot of people will do a negotiation with their vendors on a yearly basis for discounts, things like that, and then you can put those in so you don't have to think about them for the rest of the year. Okay. Next, Katie.
Yes. So next one I have here is, would you be able to show how you might proceed with an adjustment in case you receive the wrong quantity?
The wrong quantity would be, you'd need to void the transaction. I'm not set right now to do it, but the idea behind it is that you can reverse that entry, and you can, when you reverse it, it reverses the inventory as well. The challenge on that is always, it depends on what you need to do based on what has happened to the items that you brought in. So if I bring 100 items in, and then I issue an invoice for those 100 items. If I then say, oh no, I didn't get 100, I only got 90. If I have none left, what do I do about that? Like, did I overbill the guy? Did I actually ship 100? Did I have 10 that I didn't know about? Or things like that. So the question then becomes at what stage is the inventory at, in order to determine whether or not you have to do an inventory adjustment as well as a reversion of the invoice, or just a reversion of the invoice and have it pushed back. In GP, it does not do that. You have to go through the return process, and that return process checks to make sure that the item is available on hand. And Business Central does the same thing. It says, oh, sorry, you can't reverse that, because if I reverse it, I'm going to pull inventory out that I haven't got anymore because you've used some of it. So if you say, oh, I got 100 of them, but I actually only got 50, but I've sold 60 of them, or I've sold 30 of those 50, I can't necessarily fix that problem with one entry. It depends on the FIFO buckets as you move through. So that's kind of the question there. I could set one up and do it, but it would take some time. I don't have enough time today to show that. Okay.
All right, I think we have time for one last question before we're done here, Don. So that is, if a company uses dropship instead of a full inventory, would that work the same in Business Central as it does in GP?
That's a very good question. I've only got a couple of clients who run dropship inside GP. And yeah, I have not actually tested anything inside purchase orders for drop ships. So I am not sure on that answer, but let me do some more investigation and ask some questions about how to drop ship inside Business Central if I can, and get back to that person. I will defer on that one because I am not sure on that.
All right, all good. So we are coming close to time, and I do have a few additional things that I want to share with everybody today. So if we did not get the chance to get back, or if we did not get the chance to answer your questions today, we'll follow up with you by email later today. So you will see in the chat, I'm going to add a link to our events page where you can register for upcoming sessions, as well as check out previous webinars. I'm also going to add a link to our events email registration, where you can set your email preferences and opt into your email so that you can stay in the know about all upcoming events. We do have one more webinar that Dawn will be hosting this year. That's happening, as you can see, November 20th. That will cover assembly and light manufacturing. All right, so thank you, Dawn, for the presentation today, and thank you, everybody, for joining us.
Thanks all.